All right, man. How are you? Thanks for joining us, JK.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, we're a little bit of a different episode doing a solo rip, which Harrison and I do every once in a while. It always adds a good, different type of dynamic with the guests. But, excited for this one. We were saying prior to hitting record that I think I started following you on Twitter in like January or February, right when I first created the Meat Mafia account. And I've personally learned a lot from you just in terms of like really scaling a following and mindset and wealth creation and things like that. So I'm just excited to sit down and chat with you and dig into all of it.
Yeah, it's just a fun one. I think I found you by the podcast you posted with Cultivating.
Yes.
And how he thinks like about real estate, mental models, all that stuff. I was like, yeah, this is. Oh, you met Dakota in Austin, right?
We met. Yeah, I met him, I think twice in person. We got coffee and he had mentioned how he was living with you and Dan Coe and how you guys had a good time living together out there.
Yeah, it was fun. None of us liked Austin, but we liked each other. So it was fun,
Yeah. It's definitely a very particular place. And I think some people fall in love with the community and the area, but I'm sure just getting to live with both of those guys all under the same roof, it's so combining energy and living with great people is just unbelievable.
It was cool, man. Like, well, we can talk a little bit about nutrition, but those guys were kind of eye-opening when it came to nutrition.
Yeah.
Because you see those two, it's like they're lean and they're jacked, right?
Yeah.
That's what stands out. And they didn't follow most of the, like, quote unquote, best health practices, right? I saw them eating pancakes, some made ice cream, they made like waffles and toasts. And like, I knew, and I thought I knew that it was wrong because I was like, no, you just need to eat eggs and steak and that's it, right? But they were more jacked than me, so I had to learn. So like two of the things I really learned with those guys is, dude, it's what you can eat whatever you want, but it's all about protein and calories. You get those two right, you'll be fine.
Yeah. It's a really good point. And I think it's interesting how we tend to not realize how much protein we actually need. Like even if you're just knowing, like even if you're going to say, okay, I'm gonna have some pancakes, have like 4 or 5 eggs with it. So that way you get satiated at least, and you don't eat like 6 pancakes. Maybe you only need like 1 or 2 to be satisfied or something like that. But, with nutrition, there's just a lot of different ways to skin the cat, where I think I was telling you like carnivores worked well for me, animal based. But then, there's other people that can incorporate those foods, but they just have, I'm sure that they're probably being clean most of the time. And they've like earned their right to have pancakes or like some of these other foods that they're mixing into their diet.
I had a question for that actually. So how is it that you can eat the same amount of calories, but the same amount of calories satiate you the same? How is that possible? How does that work?
The same amount of
the same amount of calories, but they satiate you differently. That's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think it really comes down to the actual foods that you're eating and also looking into the different fat content and the different protein content. I think saturated fat is the big one, where it's like I've seen 2 protein bars. One has like 6 grams of fat, same like 300 calories, and then the other protein bar has 300 calories but 30 grams of fat. And those 2 things, like the one that has 30 grams of fat, literally feels like a whole meal. So I think a lot of it's like the actual nutrient density that you're getting out of those calories, where it's like, you and I, we could eat 600 calories worth of Fruit Loops and you're going to be starving. You're just going to want more and more and more. You never feel like you can fill up, where it's like 600 calories of steak from all that saturated fat, all the micronutrients you're taking out of it. It just satiates you in a completely different way, which is why the animal-based diet is really sustainable for a lot of people, because if you're burning 2,500 calories a day resting, but you're eating 2 pounds of steak, that's probably close to 2,000 calories. You feel like you don't need to eat the rest of the day, but you feel satiated and you're in this like 500 calorie deficit. So you just continue to get leaner and leaner and leaner and feel amazing at the same time.
Interesting. Is that why bulletproof coffee, people recommend that? Because of the fat?
It's the same thing. Like, especially if you're low carb, right? And you're not using carbs or glucose as an energy source, the fat needs to really replace that. So the bulletproof coffee is great because it's like you can throw 2 tablespoons of butter into your coffee, you blend it up, and you're kind of like front loading your fat for the day. So it's keeping you satiated. It's kind of nourishing to your brain too, but it's really only like 200, 300 calories, but you feel like you can go for 6 hours plus without eating. So your caloric intake is a little bit lower. So that's why people really like that.
Oh, okay. I get it now. I don't like the taste of it that much, but I get it now.
Well, especially it's like if you like the taste of strong coffee, or you want that like bitterness or whatever, the butter is going to kind of completely take away from that. But if you like a creamier beverage, like, it's a great option. So it just depends what you like.
Yeah. Has that taught you many lessons about business? Did it taught me many lessons about business, just nutrition and fitness?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Has that taught you many lessons about business, like nutrition and fitness?
I think more so, I would say that I feel my best when like I'm performing best from a business standpoint when I'm fueling the right way. That's something that I've always noticed, whether it's like getting in a 3-mile run or being really clean with my diet. Like it's just, there's like just this mental clarity and this unbelievable energy that comes from that. So like a good example is like prior to this conversation, like I'm waking out of bed, I'm popped up, I'm popping out of bed. I'm excited. I feel like this surge of energy. And I also can contrast that with when I was like drinking alcohol or eating like crap and you're like so sluggish to get out of bed, you're snoozing your alarm multiple times. So I've just felt like everything that we built through the Meat Mafia has been an extension of us like kind of improving our baseline health, which is then giving us this awesome layer to like go do really cool things and actually like build a brand and try and change other people's lives too. That's kind of how I've always viewed that stuff.
I like it. Nutrition has been such a big part of like everything I do. Because I feel like it's always, if I'm not performing well, it's always kind of exercise, nutrition, or sleep. Sunlight as well, or like movement, right? But it's always one of those. And it teaches me a lot, as in, if anything's wrong, it's just go back to the basics. Like, are you eating right? Are you getting enough sunlight? Are you just walking? And it's been great. Like, honestly, every time I do it right. And something I was kind of weird, though, is when I started eating more sugar, it kind of helped me.
Interesting.
I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah. But like, I went to Poland. I went on a trip, right? And I went to a cafe and I wanted just Splenda. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was with a friend. It's like, do you guys have Splenda? And he goes like, dude, what the fuck is Splenda? Yeah. Like, they don't know what that is. It's like, oh, what do you put on your coffee? It's like, sugar.
Yeah.
Like, all right. But it gets you, I don't know, it just gives you more energy throughout the day. So now I'll put a little bit of sugar in.
Yeah, some real sugar. Yeah, man, I think what this comes down to, and you see this, right, especially on Twitter, where it's like you can yell at someone through pixels on an app. Like, you're never going to, number one, you're never going to change someone's mind on Twitter about something like that. But secondly, like, people get so dogmatic about nutrition, but our bodies are so unique. Our makeup is so different. And so the whole point is like, do the self-experimentation like you're talking about. Go from Splenda to sugar, try a carnivore diet, incorporate some fruit, try some vegetables, like figure out really what works the best for you, because so many different people have different approaches that work for them. But I think as a starting point, like we were talking about earlier, if you can just start cooking most of your meals and prioritize really good quality protein, you're going to be healthier than 99% of people. And if you can just get those two things right, everything else is kind of just like, it's incremental from there.
Yeah. Maybe this could be a nice segue to Twitter, but you said you can't make people change their minds on Twitter. I've been thinking about that a lot. How do you get people to actually not change their mind, but actually believe in your method, in your stuff? And I think I found something that might be interesting to your audience or just anybody listening about Twitter. So if you want to talk about it, I can go ahead.
Totally. So are you 22?
Before we get into the episode, let's talk about Fawn Bone Broth's carnivore blend.
100%. Yeah, we've been huge fans of bone broth the last few months. It's really fueled our carnivore journey. Bone broth is incredibly nourishing, especially on a carnivore, animal-based, or just any type of diet, to be honest with you. And what's great about Fawn is that they're a very simple, pure product. So their product is just boiled bones, water, salt, and most of their products have spices like turmeric, cayenne, cracked pepper, but but they actually just came out with their carnivore broth, which is very simple: chicken bone broth, water, and salt too. So they're eliminating all their spices and just giving you something very pure that won't disrupt the gut.
Yeah, I think one of the things we talk about with the elimination diet is the fact that there's so many things that do actually affect how your body reacts to the food you put in your body. And the fact that they're just doing a pure bone broth with bones and just the minimal ingredients, I think is huge. And the carnivore audience will love this one. Fawn does regenerative bone, so it's really high quality stuff. Go check it out. Use our promo code in the link below.
Yep. Code MAFIA will get you 15% off your first order.
I'm 22.
22. Yeah. So you're a young guy. I'm 28. So I'm blown away by the knowledge that you have at such a young age, which I'm sure you get all the time. So I think I would love to get just background in terms of like when you started building your audience on Twitter, what you saw about cultivating an audience on Twitter. And then I'd love to just talk about what you're saying about changing people's minds, if that's cool.
Yeah. So I always tell people I was kind of born at 19 because I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I was just like in my house playing video games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So COVID hit 2020 and it's like, you can't do anything, right? I can't go out. But what I really liked, I was a Gary Vee guy at that point, have motivation, just put up content.
Yeah.
Right. So I started looking at that and I don't know, I was scrolling Twitter one day. I was earning $250 a month. I was a VA at that time. And I was scrolling, right? And I see this guy, maybe your audience knows him, Chris Johnson, like Chris Johnson 17. Guy sells, he sold watches at the time and like a stock market course. Anyway, he was making like $250K a month. And I was making $250 a month. I'm like, dude, come on. Like, what is this thing, right? I thought it was a scam. It was not. It was actually just him selling his courses on Twitter. And I liked it, man. So I started tweeting. I got into ghostwriting because I really liked it. And that was like the one skill I had was writing tweets. I was like, yeah, why not? Why not write for other people? And what really cemented this, like for me, it was this guy, Lawrence King. He posted this screenshot of Gillette. Gillette's the razor company with like 130,000 followers. They have like 3 or 4 likes per post with 130K followers, right? It's like that. So what he said was essentially, hey, if you, like the Gillette social media manager gets paid 80K a year, imagine how much you would get paid if you didn't suck at your job. Like, yeah, that makes sense, So I started writing for other people, started building, just kind of ghost writing for others. That was just like my first little chunk of money. Then I kind of built this reputation for being kind of like the Twitter guy, just showing people how to tweet, how to grow, how to monetize. And then Thibaut, he's a French entrepreneur. He approached me with this idea called Tweet Hunter. So Tweet Hunter is basically a tweet scheduler, and it was in the very, very early stages. But the cool thing, here's what happened, is I did the math, right? And they did the math as well, because they had an incredible product. I love the product, but they didn't have an audience. I had a huge audience, but I had no product, at least no product that I wanted to sell. And we partnered up together we launched a year, like 15, 16 months ago. And that one makes now like $1.5 million a year. Wow. So that went pretty well. Yeah. And we're just looking to sell it as soon as possible. But yeah, that's kind of the shtick.
That's awesome. So it's an amazing story because it's like, people, they look at you now almost as like a finished product, right? We're never a finished product, but they see you, it's like 130,000 followers, putting out these unbelievable tweets, crushing with Tweet Hunter. But then just a few years ago, you're in that exact same situation, trying to figure out, what the hell am I going to do to make money? So it's cool to hear that journey, how it started from like you starting to take on some clients, learning how to ghostwrite, learning how to build a nice Twitter following, to then getting connected with Tweet Hunter, which is such an amazing piece of technology for content creators. And you guys had this like perfect synergy. And now you're at this point now where, you guys are making incredible money, but then you're also enabling so many newer content creators to really build and scale an audience. So I'm sure that's just an awesome feeling for you just to look back and see your progression, but also now you're helping so many people, change their lives. And maybe it's like you go from working a 9-to-5 job to growing to 10,000 followers on Twitter, and you're able to sell a course or monetize an offering and then get out of that job and create the exact life that you want for yourself. I'm sure that's got to be very special for you to think about that.
It is. And now that you mentioned this is, you couldn't have said that at a better time. And let me show you why. Because I'm moving right now, right? So this is the new studio. And like going over all the boxes in my previous house, I found all my notebooks from before,
Yeah.
and just reading through it, I found this one. And it said like, man, if I can get to 5K, I just want 5K a month. Just give me 5K, I can do anything. And that came right after I was complaining about like a deal that didn't go through because I was like, oh yeah, that one for sure is coming through. It was like a really cool perspective to see like, well, you know how when you get everything you want, the only thing you want is more?
Yes.
So it kind of made me feel like a little bit embarrassed because I wasn't grateful, but also like kind of proud because I was like, man, it's been a long journey. So I just found this right now.
Really cool. It's almost like those journals, they serve as like a timeline for you to lead to that point of from when you were 19 to where you're at now. But so I'm curious. So when you started working with these clients on Twitter and you're ghostwriting for them, were you very good at creating these like single tweets, or were you really good at writing threads? Because obviously I feel like even since I got on Twitter in January, threads have just been going crazier and crazier and crazier. So I'm just curious, kind of what was the secret for you to be a very good ghostwriter for some of these clients you were working with?
Yeah. So I'd say that it wasn't so much my skill that was good. It was the market picking that I got lucky with that was good. So like kind of right out of the gate, how on Twitter when you follow someone, they show you recommended?
Yes.
Like, oh, this person follows these 3 other people. I found one out of accident, but it made sense. Like if you're going to sell to someone, sell it to rich people.
Yeah.
So I was looking for like 7-figure entrepreneurs. And just because they already had so much money, they didn't want the sales. They just wanted the growth. And like, if you just want to grow on Twitter, it's easy. Like just growth, easy money. Dude. Just craft a thread about, I don't know, 10 nutrition, health-based facts they're hiding from you and just retweet the shit out of it. That's it. Yeah. That's all you need. That's it.
Yeah.
So actually the skill wasn't that good at the time, but it was because they just hired me for growth. That's what happened. And I also had a network, I still do, but the network that if I wanted to like boost the tweets, I have like everybody who started with me in 2020. Like we have 2.5 years worth of a following. I can redirect to a single tweet. And that's a big reason why they hire me too. But it's just powerful, And I had a little bit of that going on. Not as it is today, but I had a little bit of like follower power at that point. So I guess those two, the market picking was right, and the retweets were definitely there.
Yeah. So the retweets, so you had kind of built out this like organic network of friends that supported you, and you guys were all in this group. So when you would tweet something or I would tweet something, we had that, we were motivated to want to retweet each other's stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that kind of led me to my next kind of, I don't want to say meltdown, but kind of crisis. Because I had the big following, right? Like 70,000 followers. And I was making like consistently profit like 30K a month. Right? So I met this guy, Tony. And Tony had 900 followers. And he was making 30K a month with 900 followers, dude. And I had 70K. I'm like, dude, no. I'm doing something wrong. There's got to be more to it. And that kind of started this like snowball effect. As in, like my big saying now is like ain't cash, because I do believe that it's retweets, traffic, more eyeballs won't solve your problem, and you need to actually be good at business. So that's kind of where like my whole like evolution came across. Before I thought that it's just growth, you just need to grow, but then I realized it's kind of like just growing one side of the bridge, right? And the other side of the bridge is actually offer creation, lead gen, market picking, positioning. But I didn't understand that. So if I wanted people to cross, I couldn't because there wasn't half of the bridge. I needed to build the other side. So that's kind of what I teach people now. I go to people who already have a following and I show them like, okay, people are not buying because you haven't built the other side of the bridge. And I build this side of the bridge with them.
Okay. What does that other side of the bridge actually look like?
Yeah. So it's There's three things, right? So, and the way I tell this is if you could have three competitive advantages, let's say you're a locksmith, which one would you choose? You have three. You can choose between an ad in the best part of town. You could choose between being the best locksmith in the world, or you could choose between a hot parking lot with a bunch of 50-year-old moms that left their little pretty dog inside their car and their keys inside as well.
Yeah.
Like, which one would you choose? And it's usually the parking lot with the moms, right? Because even if you weren't the best one, then you could break the window for like care and they'd still pay you.
Yeah.
Even if it was just one, you could charge a premium and she would still pay you, right? So what that like symbolizes is there's three approaches, the way I see it, to Twitter. It's market picking, that's a parking lot; offer creation, that's you being a locksmith; and traffic generation, the ad. Okay. So I feel like people start the wrong way. People start the opposite way. They actually, let me start with the right way and then I'll show the wrong way. So the right way is you pick your market first, right? You find the parking lot, then you create an offer, and then you get traffic to it. And I feel people get it sideways. They start getting the traffic, they build a huge account, they build a big account, and then they kind of launch an offer and they never really think about market. So your pyramid is kind of the opposite way. So no wonder you're not making money because you don't have the fundamentals. Yep. So for me, the other side of the bridge, it's actually positioning. How are you different from everybody else? Which I feel like you do very well. As in, there's many nutrition-based accounts, but it's like meat-based, animal-based. I feel like that's good positioning, and we can talk about that. So positioning, market picking, and offer creation, and lead generation, right? And those are not like a thread about 10 Google Chrome extensions won't give you that, you know?
Yeah.
So you need to build the other side of the bridge, which is market picking, positioning, offer creation, lead gen, sales.
Got it. Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that because I would say I probably fall into the category of what you were talking about, where it's like everything that Harry and I have been doing on Twitter. It's just been a very genuine, organic thing where we've just wanted to help teach people about nutrition. And so some of the threads that we were writing were pretty unique compared to what other people were writing about. So our account has, between the two of us, we have like 110,000 followers. So now we're kind of at the point where it's like, all right, we've clearly proven that we can build a community, we can build an audience, and we've been making good money off sponsorships and things like that. All that's great. But now we're like, we feel like we're probably missing out because we've done the reverse approach of what you're talking about, where it's like, we built an audience really quickly, but not necessarily an offer in mind at the time of building that audience out,
Yeah. And this is an interesting experiment. Colina Wizard ran. I thought it was really interesting. He tested two profiles, one with an offer and one without an offer, two bios. The bio with the offer converted better in sales and in follower count. So like people are there. It's not that you're going to get less followers when you have an offer. I mean, if you have something good, I think it was Dan Kennedy who said this, not sure. But if you have a good offer, you're kind of doing people a disservice by not putting it out there. And it also strengthens your brand. One time I launched a course, man. I launched this course. I said it was free because I was like, yeah, I'm just here to give value, which is kind of, I don't know. I don't like that phrase that much. I'm just here to give value. No, like we're here to make money, right? Giving value is the vehicle to it. But I told myself that lie. So I was like, yeah, I'm just here to give value. So out the course free. Nobody liked it. Like nobody said anything. I put a $300 price tag on it. Everybody said it was the best course they ever had from Twitter. I'm like, dude, you're paying for it. Like, why don't you appreciate it when it's free? Because people don't respect free.
Yeah.
So like you do people a disservice by not charging for what you give.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that there's this almost like fear for new creators. And I've felt this before too, of like, hey, I think it's worth this price point. Is that too much? Is that going to piss people off? Is it going to hurt my brand? I'm sure that's maybe something that you had felt when you first started creating some of your offers. And I'm just curious if there's anything that, you recommend to new creators just to kind of get over that fear or that imposter syndrome or whatever you want to call it.
Let's take a minute to talk about some of the sponsors and brands who support the show.
Who are you thinking?
I was thinking about Carnivore Bar. What are your thoughts on Carnivore Bar?
I mean, it's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable product. We were lucky enough to have the founder, Philip Meese, on the show a few months ago, and he was able to send us a bunch of product when we started the relationship and absolutely loved it. I mean, you know, it's minimum ingredient product, beef, tallow, salt, and then they do have a honey flavored option as well. But it's so nice to have a bar that's like 3 to 4 ingredients. And like when you're following a carnivore diet, it's really tough to find products that are in line with that specific diet, you know?
Yeah, for me, it kind of hits like the holy trinity of what you're looking for when you're looking for food. So it's nutrient dense, it's convenient, and it tastes great. And as you said, most people who are trying to eat healthy, the convenience factor is kind of a tough part. So just being able to have something you can grab on the go, know that you're going to have that nutrition for the day, it's huge.
Yeah, and we were lucky enough, we got to actually see their factory too in Missouri, and they're just doing things the right way. I love how they offer an option for like carnivore purists where it's just beef, tallow, salt. And then they also have an animal-based option too. If you do want a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of variety, they have the honey in that option. And they're just people that are doing things the right way. They're very mission focused. They're carnivores themselves. And, you know, we're always on the go. We're traveling. We've taken a bunch of flights together. To have a bar that has 30 grams of fat too, like that's huge from an energy density standpoint, right?
Yeah, he checks all the boxes, or the company checks all the boxes. And I just think the fact that they're sourcing from a regenerative farm as well, and Joyce Farms, just a win-win.
100%. So carnivore bar. So we got the affiliate link, and then it's code MAFIA for 10% off.
One of the other farms that supports us is Perennial Pastures, another regenerative farm out of San Diego. Our experience with Kevin Munoz, the owner, we had him on the show, a young first-generation rancher who's really empowered by this movement of regenerative agriculture and really wants to be a leader in the space. I think our conversation with him was so insightful just in terms of how mission-focused he is and how he really thinks about his farm as a business and wanting it to be here 50, 100 years down the road, even though he's just the first generation of it. And I think just being able to spend time with him out in San Diego was kind of the perfect indication of that, where we got to go have a meal with him at his house, hang out with his wife and kids. Like, what an amazing person. And I think his mission focus around raising really high quality beef and restoring nutrients to the soil is just one of those rare missions that I think everyone can get around.
Yeah, he has such a commitment to really feeding the local community in San Diego, in the San Diego County first and foremost, but he's also passionate about feeding the community around the country. So I know they've invested a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources to being able to order beef in bulk on their website. So I know that they now offer quarter, half, whole cows directly off the website. They have that great ancestral blend ground beef product. So it actually has organ grinds mixed into the ground beef. So you're getting the benefits of like an ounce or so of organ meat, but because it's in the ground beef, you really can't taste it at all. And I think to your point, Harry, just another amazing person. You know, Kev was someone that he was following a paleo diet in college and started realizing, wow, when I nourish my body with real foods, I feel amazing. Had a really successful stint in tech, but realized that there was just something else that he was passionate about. So he's one of those rare cases where, you know, he put his money where his mouth is, and he's a first generation farmer, just, you know, bootstrapping this thing, raising money, and just so passionate about feeding the community. Just an amazing guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for listening. Now we're going to go back to the show.
So creators, if you are afraid of kind of just charging money in the beginning, I would say a big part of it comes from what happens if I don't follow through. Like, what if you make the cash, or you get the cash, they pay you, they trust you, and you don't deliver? So what I like to do in that case is kind of think of the worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. What happens if you deliver? Well, you just give your money back. Yeah. Give them the money back, right? You're very upfront about it in the beginning. So I like to do that. And second of all is, like, people feel that way because they're charging based on price and not on value. So what I like to do is I like to figure out price by not coming up with price first, but actually figuring out how much value am I giving. So if I'm showing you how to craft a $3,000 offer, it's probably $3,000 of value. If the PDF that you're going to give them, I don't know if it's going to be a PDF, but it'll save them, 5 consultations with their doctor. Well, how much is it? That's like $500, right? And then you keep adding. Eventually, you're going to have a number. You divide it by 10, and that's what's charged. So you give them 10x the value. That's how I like to look at it. And if you're scared because you're not, I don't know, you're kind of scared that you're not charging, or you're kind of scared to charge, Like, what's the alternative, man? They're just going to give everything away for free?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, some people tell me, oh man, but it only took me a day. Like, this guy has been like doing Twitter for maybe like 3 years now. And some guy, he got a client and then the client wanted a refund, right? And he was kind of like, yeah, I'll just give him the refund because it only took me like an hour to write his tweets. And then I said, yeah, it also took you 3 years to learn what you needed to put in those tweets. So, like, I feel like if you have that, it's a little bit of how much effort have you put into learning what you're offering? It's probably a lot, right? Or probably more than a lot of people are willing to give. And you'd be amazed at how people are paying 2x your prices for one half of the quality.
100%. Yeah, it's interesting. I know that the Bitcoin community talks a lot about this concept of like value for value, which is kind of reminding me of what you're talking about now, where it's like, look, if you're offering a service that you know is an amazing service where the client is going to get value out of it, there should be no issue with you charging the price point that you think is fair, even if it's a high ticket, if they're getting some type of exponential gain by using your product. But I think
in a way you're helping them, I think, because if you pay for something, subconsciously you will take more care of it, right? So, this is a cool fitness example. Okay, I'm trying to like tie it down to fitness. Alex Hormozy, when he launched, one of the offers he had a gym launch, it was a free 6-week lose 20 pounds challenge, something like that. So it wasn't free; it was $600, but if you lost the weight, he gave you your money back. Right? So it's like money is not so much like the more you go into the game, the more you see money as different things. In the beginning, it's just the end all be all. Then it becomes kind of a tool, and then it becomes kind of just a way to have fun in a way. Yeah. So anyway, and in that case, money, sometimes people give you money not because they want what you offer, but it's just kind of giving themselves permission to consume what you offer.
Totally.
You know, you want to say something?
No, I was going to just say, I was just curious from your perspective, how has it been being, 22 and being very financially successful and kind of like, it's one of those things where it's like gradually, but suddenly where it's like, you're 19 years old, you're trying to figure out how you're ultimately going to monetize. And now you're sitting here 22 years old, not worried about money at all with an amazing business. I'm just curious, how you think about that.
Yeah, I actually don't think about that a lot because I actively really try to isolate myself from Lobo from Twitter calls it porn. He says everything on the internet's porn. The cars, the houses, the money, the watches, the computers, the clothes, everything's porn. So isolate yourself. So if you look at my YouTube history, it's all lo-fi playlists and a few anime clips. That's what I watch. I don't listen to music with lyrics. I don't have many friends. I have over 1,500 people muted on Twitter. And the reason why it's because I feel like success, obviously it's relative. So a lot of people tell me like you have accomplished a lot, but in my mind, I just have nothing to compare it to. Because I don't see many people my age. I see a little bit of Twitter, but in my mind, it's only me. So have I done a lot or have I done a little? The honest question is, I just don't know because I don't have anything to compare it to. Right. And I like to tell people that a lot. It's a lot of your suffering comes from self-imposed limitations and expectations and deadlines. It's like you don't have to choose tomorrow. You don't have to be a successful entrepreneur tomorrow. Yeah. You can just work and like isolate yourself. And when you stop comparing, you just get happier, man. It's just cooler.
It's such a good point. It's really interesting to hear how you've kind of created this existence for yourself where it's very pared down and you're just focusing on your exact path. And I think that's important for a lot of people on Twitter to understand, because I think it could be easy for someone to like look at your account and be like, wow, he's so young. He's got 130,000 followers. He's built this unbelievable business. What about me? Which is the wrong question to ask. It more so should be like, JK has done an unbelievable job at a young age, creating a following online, monetizing, building the exact business that he wants. Why can't you do the same? Almost like using it as a motivational point, not necessarily like a comparison tool of like, it's him versus me. It's like, if you're doing that, you're really just setting yourself up to not be happy at all. That's just not the right way to go about it.
Yeah, I like to look at it as Robert Bannister, the 4 minute mile. You know how he broke the 4 minute mile, and then like 40 something days later, somebody did it, and it couldn't have been done like anywhere else in history.
Yeah,
it's crazy shit.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is like that. So, like in my mind, when I saw Chris Johnson 250K months, that wasn't conceivable.
Yeah,
I just didn't think that was a thing. When I saw it, it's like, oh, okay, so it's doable. Now that you know it's doable, you turn the computer off and you get to work, because you know it's possible. And I'm a big fan of just not posting your wins, not seeing so much of other people's wins, because most of your days are just going to be very unexceptional, very boring, very repetitive, very menial. And one day you just wake up and you have everything you wanted, but you don't feel it. That's what I'm trying to say. Dude, there wasn't a day when you woke up and I'm like, oh man, I'm fucking fit. Like someday it just happened. You just didn't choose one, it just happened. So I feel like a lot of the, when people say like, oh yeah, I want to be successful, there's many layers to success, and one of them I feel like I have achieved. I really don't compare myself to anyone.
Yeah.
And that's just given me unbelievable calm.
Do you feel like this might be a tough question to answer. Like, are there things that when you look back, whether, I don't know if it was a book or a meditation practice or whatever, like how did you kind of start to cultivate that mindset of just focusing on yourself and blocking out comparison to some of these external things?
Oh, a girl broke my heart.
Yeah.
That's what happens, bro. A girl fucks you up, you get to the gym and then you get better. Happened to you?
I mean, I've had relationships that haven't gone well, but I've always with relationships, I've always like tried to just have like an abundance mentality that there's always someone else out there. But to your point, it's like when that relationship does end, I think you definitely feel that like next level motivation.
Yeah. It forces you to look inside, and it's like, if you're so good at what you do, then why did you fuck up?
Yeah.
It's like, if you're so good at what you do, why are you not making the money you want to be making? So it gave me like a huge sense of like just a bitch slap. Just like, no, like you're not as good as you think.
Yeah.
It's funny because every now and then, I don't know if you think about this, but every now and then I'll think about like, if this is where a game from 0 to 100, where would I rank like in the score? And the more I learn, the lower I rank myself. For some reason.
Which is incredible. I mean, number one, I'm sure you're your own worst critic, but number two, I think it's also easy, especially when you're on Twitter or any social media platform and you're gaining this following and you're like just tweeting out your thoughts and people are liking it and retweeting it and putting you on a pedestal to think that you're something special. And then you just go out into the real world and realize that there's so much that you don't have figured out at all. And then you meet these men that are on another level, or just performers in general that are on another level. And it just reminds you what you're capable of, right? So it's like, I'm 28, you're 22. So I imagine like, 6 more years by the time that you're my age with this mindset and like just continuing to be humble and just continue to progress. Like it's going to be scary where you're going to be just at 28, which is already so young to begin with, but it becomes from you thinking like, look, I know that I'm capable of more and I'm not. And whenever I think I'm better than I really am, life has a way of humbling me real quick. So.
Yeah. And when you get, okay, so the person I am today is kind of the person I wanted to be 2 years ago, right? But when I got here, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I'm still oh man, I need to learn. And I don't know, but I feel like 10X today, it's going to feel the same way. Like, man, I still got to learn. So a big reason why beginners, I feel, on Twitter as well, and whatever fitness, it happens, you feel like you need to ask permission to put stuff out there because you feel like you're not good enough. When in reality, there's always going to be people ahead of you and behind you in the journey. And even though you're just beginning, maybe you don't know much, there's always people behind you, and you tweet and you write and you post for them. Because even though you don't know everything, you can still add some value.
Yes. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, the concept of asking permission is interesting. And I'm sure you probably get tons of DMs from people like asking you these little minute details of like, hey, JK, do you think I should do this or that? Or you think I should post this or not? And you're like, you already know in your soul what the right answer is. You're just asking for permission. You're like, it's like mental masturbation almost. It's like, you don't need my permission. Just go do it and take action and see what happens.
Does that happen a lot to you in fitness? It's like, man, I need to lose weight. I don't know what to do. Like, I think you do.
Yeah, dude, literally my story. So I played baseball in college. I graduated college 2017. And I was just talking about this morning. And I just felt like I really underachieved relative to my potential. Like I should have had a way better baseball career. I could have been a better student. And I was literally just kind of like drinking and being a degenerate and, not living my highest calling. And I saw a picture of myself from the 4th of July in 2017. And I just have the type of genetics where like when I drink and I eat sugar and stuff, my face gets like really inflamed and holds water. And I just looked at the picture. I look like shit. I objectively look like shit. And there was just something about that picture that just triggered everything for me. And I just started running the next day. I'd never really been a runner, but I was listening to like David Goggins and some Navy SEALs and things like that. And I was like, fuck it. I'm literally just going to get good at running. And I just kind of went monk mode for a period of time where I was lifting every day. I was waking up at 4. I was going on these runs. And that all progressed to everything that I'm doing now. But the whole point is it's like before that, I was like looking up the best supplements and the right weightlifting routine. And it was like, dude, if you just pick something and just go at it and attack it, like with a great mindset, like it's just inevitable that you're going to be successful if you can stay consistent with it.
Yeah. People think there is a best way.
Yeah.
If there was a best way, then everybody would be following the best way,
Totally.
Everybody's figuring it out as they go.
Yeah, I'm sure it's even the same thing. It's the same thing with social media, man. It's like, even with this podcast, it's like we've had on so many guests that I've looked up to for years about nutrition. And there was just, and I used to dream about like, oh man, imagine having like a top nutritional podcast. And then even this year, right? It's like we started the podcast in March. We've done 130 episodes and we've had, we just cracked the top 25 for nutrition podcasts in the US, and which is sick, right? It's like, and that's just like proof of concept of all we've been doing is we just reach out to people all the time. We try and be positive. We ask the questions that we wish we knew. And the next thing you know, you're able to build out a following. And it's like, you have your own version of that. Your clients have their own version of that. And that's why it's tough for me to not be so optimistic, because we live in this generation where you literally have this device where you can start literally tweet out your thoughts, build a following, and create an entire business off of that and live the exact life that you want.
How many podcasts you say you posted?
120. This will be 100. This might be, I think we've released 126. And then this is like, we have like 10 episodes in the chamber. So like around 135, 136 total.
So I get 120, 126, right? So the question I get a lot is, okay, Brett, how do I do that? But with only 2 podcasts. So you can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't. Like you have to do it, Like, so Brett, let me ask you. So like people hear it not from my mouth. What's the secret? There's got to be a secret.
The secret is literally just doing the fucking thing like you talked about. It's like, that's the thing that people don't want to hear, because in theory, I'm really not, I'm different because we've gone on this whole journey creating the meat mafia the last year, but really I'm not. Like this time last year, I'm not that different of a person in terms of like my physique, the way that I train, my mindset. Like there's no reason why I couldn't have been doing this time last year. I just didn't have that force to like actually want to go out and put it out into the universe, right? It was like, I literally got to a point in January where I decided, hey, I really want to try and put some content out there. I wrote a very simple thread on how I healed my ulcerative colitis on a carnivore diet. I was in Solbra's Discord group. I posted it there so he could see it. He retweeted it and it got me a couple hundred followers. And then everything from there, like that was my proof of concept of like, okay,
my stuff is actually good enough that I can build a following. And then since that time, it was like a shark tasting blood for the first time. And since that time, it's just been, creating, putting out content, using Twitter really thoughtfully. Like, dude, I've gotten like 80 of our podcast guests just reaching out to people that I respect a lot on Twitter. And that's why I really appreciate your mindset, because I think so many people underutilize the connections on Twitter and having calls and Zooms and getting podcast guests. Like, it's the most direct networking tool I've ever seen. Like, if LinkedIn could tap into the power of Twitter, it would be unbelievable, but it's not. It's too whitewashed.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like, if you can just start and get that first little proof of concept, everything else I think will take care of itself.
Yeah. And we can tie this back to what we talked in the beginning. We'll get there. So you said something cool, as in like the first thread of yours that did well was kind of shark tasting blood for the first time.
Yeah.
Really, really resonated with me, man. Because like, I feel like the best thing we can do as creators, sometimes it's not so much champion ourselves, but champion an idea that we associate ourselves with. So, for example, let's say anybody had anybody's trying to lose weight, they're trying to get in shape, whatever. So before they buy any of your programs, before they listen to everything or like become a fan of you, first they need to become a fan of your concept and your method, which is like the animal-based diet, right? So I feel like the strongest accounts, I don't know if you felt this, because sometimes I've seen big accounts and they tell me this. Sometimes I feel like there's accounts with like auras and like power and like certain energy to them. And then there's me.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like, fuck. Like, I don't have that, But I feel like the people that have that kind of power to them, it's because they champion a certain idea. And then people buy the idea before they buy the person.
Yes.
So let's say cold email wizard, for example. I don't know if you guys know him, but the guy sells cold email methods. So before you buy any of his stuff, you need to first believe that cold email will grow your business, right? And as soon as you see other people just like you that did it, that's kind of the first taste of blood for the shark, right? The belief came first and then came the purchase. Like with you, people saw that it could heal them, that a plant animal-based diet was the way. It could heal them.
Yes.
For me, it's when people see that growth isn't going to make you money, you actually need to learn business, because life's ain't cash. Once you believe that, then you take all the steps. It's like the moment you saw the picture where you didn't like how your face looked, you kind of figured it on your own. You started running, you started lifting, you started waking up early. So I feel like the best thing we can do as creators is not give everything away that we know, because it's impossible to put everything on a thread or on a course. So you just can't. But if you tailor your content, instead of how do I teach them everything I know, to how do I make them believe that what I know is the way?
Yes.
When you make that shift, I feel like you will get that power and you'll make a bigger impact, because nothing starts with belief first. Like, honestly, so you kind of look the same on the day they took that picture you didn't like than the day before. Look the exact same. So why didn't you start before? Because before you didn't have the belief.
Yes.
You didn't have the belief that what you were doing was wrong. But once you had it, everything started to make. So a big thing we do in Tweets and Clients, it's we make them craft a thread right in the beginning, and we retweet the shit out of that thread, right? And then they get all the traffic and they make no money. And we're like, do you understand now?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I get it. Yeah, we need to learn business.
100%. It's so funny because for me, I don't know if you saw it, but the thread that I wrote that was the most viral was a thread on how the size.
Chicken.
Yeah. And dude, I was reading this amazing book and I was like, someone needs to tell this story. So I was writing it on a Friday, and then I woke up on a Saturday morning and I just posted it. And I'd seen the image do well, that exact image in that header. And that's what most people, they screw up the image in the header. But it was a really good image. But I posted it and the thing absolutely exploded. And I linked to the book at the end, but I didn't put like an affiliate code or anything because I just wanted to help the author get good publicity because he's an amazing guy.
And he was like, dude, we sold a shitload of books on that Saturday. What happened? And I even think about like, you imagine if I'd had like an offer in place or an affiliate link in place. It's all good because it, helped grow me to where I'm at now. But like, that's a perfect example of like, that's a thread that I might not ever write again. And, I probably missed out on some opportunity with that. So I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. What you could do is you could unpin it, leave it for like 2 months, and then post it again so people kind of forget about it, and then you plug in something.
Yeah. Yeah. But dude, that's the power of the internet. But to your point though, this is actually great. Is like you were saying how the one client wanted to fire your buddy because he was only doing an hour of work, but he had been going at it for 3 years, building up his knowledge on Twitter. It's like those types of threads. Those are once every 6 month type threads. It doesn't account for all the other threads that I wrote before that I thought were good that just bombed, but kept giving me that identity of a writer and helping me refine my craft that led to that great thread that you're talking about.
Yeah, man. Nothing happens for the longest time, and then you win all at once. That's how Twitter goes.
Totally. Well, look, man, I know we're coming up on time, and I know you've been really generous being able to jump on this. I feel like we could rip for probably another hour. We'll have to do a part 2 with Harry because I know he would love to talk with you.
Yeah.
But what for people to connect with you, learn a little bit more about what you got going on? What's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So you can find me at Twitter on @1JK Molina, ONEJK Molina, if you want to learn about audience monetization, not audience building, because likes ain't cash.
Yeah. I love it, man. Well, listen, I, number one, I really appreciate you coming on to do this. And number two, I just appreciate all the content that you put out. Cause I genuinely mean that. I mean, you were one of the first larger accounts that I followed, and I've personally gotten a ton of value from your mindset, building out a Twitter following. It's really helped enable me to do the things that I'm doing now. So, I just appreciate everything that you're doing and just keep doing more of it because the world definitely needs it.
Appreciate it, man. It was good to talk. It was good to finally link up. We'll do a part 2.
Thanks, bro.
All right.